The diner buzzed with the low hum of conversation, clinking dishes, and a jukebox stuck on a country song no one really liked. Emily wiped her hands on her apron and glanced at the corner booth, where a boy no older than 8 sat alone, head tilted down, fork hovering just above his plate. She paused. His movements were uncertain. His milk was untouched. He reached for the napkin but knocked it to the floor. Emily walked over, crouching beside him. "Hey, sweetie," she said softly. "You need a hand?" The boy startled slightly. I can't find my spoon," he murmured. She handed it to him gently. Then noticed the cane leaning against the booth. White with a red tip. Her heart tugged. Without waiting for permission, she sat beside him and cut his pancakes into neat bites, narrating softly so he could follow. "Okay, fork's right here, got it?" The boy smiled, barely. Across the room, behind a newspaper and black coffee, a man in a dark suit watched. Sharp eyes. Still posture. He'd been there every morning this week. No one knew he was the boy's father. No one knew he was one of the richest men in the city. Emily's shift ended just past midnight, like it always did on Thursdays. She changed out of her syrup-stained apron, tossed on a hoodie, and walked 3 blocks through cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights toward the apartment she called home. It wasn't much: peeling paint, a leaky faucet, and walls thin enough to hear the neighbor's TV at 2 a.m. But it was theirs. Inside, her 15-year-old brother, Jake, was asleep on the couch, textbook still open, a cold grilled cheese half-eaten on his plate. Emily smiled wearily, brushed the crumbs off his hoodie, and pulled a blanket over him. Their parents had died in a car crash 4 years ago. No extended family had stepped in. No inheritance. Just bills, funeral debt, and a teenage boy looking up at her with tear-filled eyes, whispering, "What now?" Emily became the answer. She dropped out of college. Took the first job that would hire her. Then the second. Then the third. Now, at 24, she worked morning shifts at a bakery, nights at the diner, and every Sunday she cleaned houses in the suburbs. She never complained. Because Jake was doing well in school. Because their electricity hadn't been cut in 6 months. Because survival, however messy, was still something she could be proud of. Every morning, she told herself one thing: don't fall apart. Just make it to tomorrow. No one knew the ache in her knees or the blisters on her feet. Customers only saw the smile, the "what can I get you today," and the refill before they asked. She had no time for dreams. No room for extras. And yet, somehow, she found time to feed a blind boy she didn't know. Because kindness, that was one thing she'd never stopped believing in. The next morning, just after the breakfast rush, Emily saw him again. Same booth. Same cane. Same small hands feeling for the edge of the table. This time, she approached slowly, already carrying a plate of warm pancakes with extra syrup. "Hey there," she said, setting it down. "Back for round 2? The boy nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "They taste better when you cut them." Emily chuckled. "Well, I am the pancake queen around here." "What's your name, sweetie?" "Noah," he said softly. "What's yours?" "Emily." He repeated it under his breath, like a secret. She began slicing his pancakes with gentle hands. "You here with anyone, Noah?" He shook his head. "My dad says I need to practice being independent. He drops me off, and picks me up later." Emily hesitated, glancing again at the corner of the diner where the suited man sat. Silent. Watching. "I like your voice," Noah added suddenly. "It reminds me of my mom." Emily's hands paused. She passed away in a car accident. I remember how her voice made the world feel softer. Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. She must have been amazing. She was, he said. From that moment on, whenever Noah came in, Emily sat with him during her breaks. She'd describe what was on the specials board. Ask about his favorite smells. His dreams. And though Noah couldn't see her smile, he always knew when she did. Because kindness has a sound. And Noah never missed it. From the farthest booth in the diner, tucked just beneath the humming ceiling fan, sat a man in a charcoal suit. Not flashy. Not loud. But pressed clean, precise. A gold watch peeked from beneath his cuff every time he sipped his black coffee. Victor Langston. To the other customers, he looked like any other businessman, maybe a lawyer or traveling consultant passing through town. But his name sat at the top of skyscrapers. Victor Langston, billionaire real estate mogul. Owner of half the buildings in the city. A man whose boardroom presence could freeze a room. Whose photo had been printed on the cover of Forbes more than once. And yet, here he sat, for the third day in a row, in a greasy spoon diner with scratched tables and crooked blinds. Watching Noah. Victor had never planned to raise a child alone. When his wife died, something inside him broke so quietly, it didn't even make a sound. He buried himself in mergers, quarterly reports, and luxury silence. He hired nurses, therapists, tutors, everyone except himself. But something shifted when Noah asked to start going out alone. Victor followed at a distance. No bodyguards. No chauffeurs. He just watched. And what he saw, he didn't expect. A waitress, young, tired, giving his son something no one else had, humanity. She treated him like a person, not a condition. She smiled at him, not for credit, but because she meant it. Victor didn't step in. Didn't speak. But every word the girl said, every laugh Noah let out, every small act of care. It landed like a stone in the still water of his guilt. And in that silence, Victor Langston, billionaire, found himself watching not as a tycoon, but as a father. The day of the accident still echoed in Victor Langston's mind like a scream trapped behind glass. He'd been in Tokyo, sealing a multi-million-dollar deal. His wife, Rachel, had taken Noah to the zoo. The nanny had the flu, so she went alone. There was rain. Slick roads. A delivery truck that didn't break in time. Rachel died on impact. Noah survived, but lost his sight. Victor flew back the moment he got the call, but by the time he landed, something inside him had already turned to stone. He stood in the hospital room like a stranger. His own son couldn't see the tears he refused to let fall. Instead of holding him, Victor hired the best specialists. Top therapists. A full-time care team. And buried himself in boardrooms, red-eye flights, and bottomless work. In his mind, he convinced himself it was love. That giving Noah the best meant he didn't have to be present. But now, for years later, the illusion was cracking. Noah had asked to go out alone. Let me do things on my own, Dad. Please. Victor reluctantly agreed, with one condition: he would follow, unseen. So he sat in the diner on Monday. Then Tuesday. Then Wednesday. And that's when he saw her. Emily. The waitress who didn't flinch at the cane. Who guided Noah's hands instead of doing things for him. Who smiled as though Noah could see it, and maybe, in some way, he could.
Victor didn't know what he felt at first. Gratitude? Shame? Jealousy? Maybe all three. Because in 3 short days, a girl with calloused hands and tired eyes gave his son something Victor never had the courage to offer. Tenderness without distance. And suddenly, watching wasn't enough anymore. It was a Friday afternoon, unusually loud for the diner. A group of men stumbled in, already buzzed from happy hour. Loud voices, slurred jokes, the kind of customers Emily had learned to handle with tight smiles and quick service. She was refilling Noah's lemonade when one of the men noticed the cane resting beside him. "Hey, kid," he laughed, elbowing his friend. "You fencing someone with that stick or just poking around in the dark?" Noah froze. Emily's body tensed. "He's just trying to eat," she said firmly, standing between them. How about you leave him alone? The man raised his brows. Easy, sweetheart. Just making conversation. You want to talk? Talk to me. He's not here to entertain you. The man's smile faded. You've got a mouth on you for a waitress. Before she could reply, he gave her a light shove, enough to knock her sideways into the edge of the table. Plates clattered. A glass shattered. Noah gasped. And then, suddenly, he was there. Victor Langston, silent no more, crossed the floor with quiet fury. He placed a firm hand on the drunk's shoulder, leaned in close, and whispered something no one else could hear. The man paled, backed off, muttered an apology, and stumbled out with his friends. Emily looked up, breathing hard. Her wrist throbbed. Victor turned to her. Are you all right? She nodded slowly, stunned. Noah tilted his head. Dad. Victor knelt beside him. I'm here. Noah didn't speak. He only reached out and found his father's hand, resting it lightly over his own. For the first time in years, Victor didn't pull away. Emily watched, tears burning in her eyes. Not from pain, but from witnessing something that might finally be beginning. The diner lights dimmed as the last customers left, and chairs were flipped onto tables. Emily wiped down the counter with slow, tired motions, her wrist still aching faintly from the earlier scuffle. The bell above the door jingled. Not for someone leaving, but for someone staying. Victor Langston stood there, still in his tailored suit, but somehow quieter now. More human. I'd like a moment, if you're not too tired, he said. Emily nodded, motioning to the booth in the back. They sat across from each other in silence for a beat. Then Victor spoke. You've done more for my son in a week than people I've paid 6 figures to. Emily blinked, unsure what to say. He laughs around you, Victor continued. He smiles. He listens. And he feels heard. I've forgotten what that looks like. She shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. I just treat him like anyone else. He's a sweet kid. That's all. Victor reached into his coat pocket and slid an envelope across the table. Emily didn't open it. If this is money, I can't take it. He smiled faintly. It's not charity. Then what is it? Victor leaned forward, voice steady. It's a job offer. Emily's breath caught. I want you to come work for us. Full-time. As Noah's companion, guide, mentor. Whatever he needs. You already do it naturally. She hesitated. Victor met her eyes. You're not a waitress, Emily. You're a miracle my son didn't know he needed. She looked down, then up again, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't say no. That night, Emily sat on the worn-out couch in their apartment, the envelope still unopened on the coffee table. Jake sat cross-legged beside her, headphones off for once. You've been staring at that thing like it's gonna explode. It might, she muttered. She told him everything, about Noah, the job, Victor Langston, and what it all meant. It's full-time, she said. I'd be helping with Noah's schooling, his day-to-day life. Traveling when they travel. It's stability. More money than I've ever seen. Jake leaned back. Sounds like a miracle. It means leaving the diner. Good. It means leaving you. Jake turned toward her, eyes serious. Emily, you've raised me since I was 11. You gave up your life. If this gives you a chance to live again, even a little, you should take it. She looked down, fingers nervously picking at a thread in the blanket. But who's going to make sure you eat? Get to school? Handle the bills? I'm not a kid anymore, he said gently. And you won't be on the moon. We'll figure it out. Emily blinked back tears. She had spent so long surviving that the idea of something better felt dangerous. Unreal. Like if she reached out, it might vanish. But Noah had smiled. Victor had softened. And her brother, the one person who truly knew her, was giving her permission to dream. She reached for the envelope. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to say yes. The next morning, Emily stood at the diner's entrance in her apron for the last time. The scent of burnt coffee and maple syrup wrapped around her like an old coat. Her co-workers gathered near the counter. Carol from the grill, Big Mike the dishwasher, and Doris, the manager who always pretended not to care but had tears in her eyes now. "You better write, kid," Doris said, pulling Emily into a firm hug. "And don't forget, pancakes are still on the house when you visit." Emily laughed through her tears, squeezing each of them tight. Jake waited outside in his hoodie, hands in his pockets. Before she stepped out, he looked at her seriously. "You always take care of me," he said. "Maybe it's time someone takes care of you." Her chest tightened. She nodded, kissed his forehead, and walked toward the black car waiting by the curb. Inside, Noah sat in the back seat, Kane resting across his lap. He tilted his head as she entered. "You came," he whispered. "I did," she said, voice trembling. "Are we going home together now?" Emily blinked quickly, holding back the flood. She took his small hand in hers. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered. "We are." Emily moved into the guest house behind the Langston estate. A quiet, sunlit space filled with books, soft rugs, and a view of the garden. Every morning began with the same routine. Hot tea, Noah's favorite music playing softly, and laughter echoing through the hallways. Laughter that hadn't existed there in years. Emily taught Noah how to crack eggs without shells, how to stir pasta by feel, and how to pour just enough syrup without overdoing it. "Smell it, Noah," she'd say. "Your nose knows when it's just right." He laughed more now. Real, belly-deep laughs. She read him stories at night, let him guide the conversation during walks, and made sure every word he spoke felt heard. And he did the same for her, listening when she talked about her parents, about Jake, about long shifts and short nights. Victor watched it unfold, quietly at first. But Emily pushed him too. "Talk to him," she urged one evening. "Not as a businessman, as a father." And slowly Victor did. He began joining them for breakfast, then for walks. He learned to listen to Noah's silences, to ask what he used to assume, to hug without apology. Noah changed, but so did Victor. And Emily, she bloomed. The girl who once hid behind coffee pots and cracked vinyl booths now walked with her shoulders back and eyes bright. She learned to speak up, to ask for what she needed, to accept help without shame. The Langston house, once a hollow mansion, now pulsed with warmth. 3 broken people, 1 shared table, and the smallest hands among them had brought them all together. It was a rainy Tuesday when Emily wandered into Victor's study, searching for a book Noah had asked for. She found more than that. An open file folder lay on the desk, paper spread beneath a paperweight. Curiosity got the better of her. She scanned the letterhead, a prestigious European Institute for Blind Youth, a relocation contract, a signature block with Victor's name. Her stomach sank. When Victor entered moments later, umbrella dripping in one hand, he stopped cold at the sight of her expression. "You were going to send him away?" she asked, voice low. Victor sighed, closing the folder slowly. "It was before you came, but it was recent enough. I didn't know how to be around him," he admitted. "Every time I looked at Noah, I saw Rachel, and I saw my failure. I thought he'd be better off somewhere I wasn't." Emily's eyes shimmered, but she held her voice steady. "He doesn't need a school with marble floors. He needs someone who calls him Noah, not a case file." Victor looked away. "He needs a father," she said, softer now. "Not a fortune." For a long moment, the only sound was the soft ticking of the grandfather clock. Then Victor sat down, shoulders heavy. "I know," he whispered. "I just didn't know if I was still allowed to try." Emily stepped forward and placed the folder back on the desk. "It's not too late," she said. And for once, Victor believed her. The morning sun poured through the kitchen windows, casting golden light on the breakfast table. Emily was helping Noah butter his toast when Victor entered, holding a folder in one hand and wearing a rare smile. "I have something to share," he said. Emily and Noah looked up. Victor sat across from them, clearing his throat. "This isn't about business. It's about family." He slid the folder toward Emily. She opened it cautiously and froze. Legal documents. Guardianship. Her name. Victor looked at her. "I've named you Noah's emotional guardian. You've given him more heart than I ever could alone. This just makes it official." Emily's lips parted, but no words came. "There's more," Victor added, pulling a small envelope from his jacket. "I bought the diner. Doris will run it now. No more worry about it going under." Emily blinked, stunned. "And Jake," he continued, "is getting a full college fund. Covered. No strings." Tears welled in her eyes. Victor leaned back. "You changed our lives, Emily. This is just a start." Emily looked at Noah, who grinned wide and whispered, "Told you we were family." She laughed, eyes full, heart wide open. For once, the gift wasn't money. It was belonging. The evening air was warm, the sky painted in deep purples and gold. On the back porch of the Langston estate, crickets sang somewhere in the garden, and wind chimes clinked softly with the breeze. Emily sat on the wooden bench, Noah beside her, his legs swinging slightly, bare toes brushing the edge of the floorboard. Victor stood behind them, quiet, watching the moment unfold. Noah tilted his head toward Emily. "Miss Emily?" "Yes, sweetheart." He hesitated, voice hushed. "I can't see your face, but I know it's kind." She smiled, her throat tight. "I know it's kind because your voice is soft when I'm scared and strong when I need it. I know you smile when I do, even if I miss it. And I know you changed everything." Victor stepped closer, hands in his pockets. "No, Noah," he said gently. "She didn't just change everything." Emily turned to him, surprised. "She changed us." Emily blinked fast, her eyes glossy under the porch light. Noah reached his hand out slowly. "Can I feel your face?" "Just once." She nodded, guiding his fingers to her cheek. His small hand brushed her skin, memorizing it. The curve of her smile, the warmth beneath her eyes. He smiled wide. "Yes," he whispered. "That's the one." Victor sat beside them, closer than he ever had before. No suits, no headlines, just a father, a son, and a woman who reminded them both that healing doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it enters quietly, with pancakes, patience, and the simple courage to care.